Good evening. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Barnabas Brushes. My name is Patrick. I play the character of Barnabas Quint on Elite Encounters. You may see the tag up there, and you may see the swag here. For those of you who don't know, Elite Encounters is a live play tabletop role-playing game channel set in a homebrew world of Iota Dree. That's a complete custom creation of our game master, our seer as we call her. You can check out that unique world using the Pathfinder 2nd Edition role-playing game rules on the channels listed in my suggested channels. So why are we separating off? Why is it a suggested channel? I have started this channel as kind of an affiliate of the Elite Encounters main channel, sort of the MTV2, if you will, of Elite Encounters MTV. What we're doing here is we are painting miniatures to use in our tabletop role-playing game setting over there in Elite Encounters. What is Elite Encounters? Those of you may be joining and may be asking yourselves. Elite Encounters has been going for just over a year now. We just met our 1 year anniversary. We are a live play tabletop role-playing game group that plays in studio and live at conventions. You can catch us. We've played a couple conventions in Indianapolis and Louisville, so we're starting here in the Midwest and hoping to grow and spread and make our presence known at conventions throughout the region. But Elite Encounters, our view there is tabletop role-playing games. We love playing in the classic way at a table with a map in front of us, with miniatures in front of us, with all of our friends at the table with us. And it's fun to get back to that kind of classical roots of role-playing game. I know with virtual tabletops and the advent of being able to connect with people all over the world and play role-playing games in a number of different settings, a number of different virtual tabletops, it does feel nice to get back to the table and play with your friends. And I think that's what sets us apart at Elite Encounters as we play live in studio. Speaking of, would like to shout out and give a welcome to our channel owner and I don't know, president, CEO, emperor, God emperor, I don't know what you call yourself. But Mike, welcome aboard. Welcome to the first chat in the first episode of Barnabas Brushes here on Elite Encounters Barnabas Brushes channel, which I just described was like the MTV2 of Elite Encounters. I don't know. Can I say that? ESPN2 maybe? Uh, C-SPAN 2? I don't know. Maybe this is boring like C-SPAN. Anyway, what we've been doing here, like I was saying, is painting miniatures to use in our main channel on the Elite Encounters, which is, again, down there in the suggested channels. Be sure to check us out. We play every Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time in the channel that's linked below. And we play live. So all of the fun and all of the foibles and all of the fumbles and all of the F words are all real and uncensored and live right to you with no delay. Yes, yes. God Emperor of Elite Encounters. But anyway, uh, Elite Encounters is available on Twitch live, like I said, on Tuesday, but we also have videos on demand that drop every Friday. We're also going to start pushing videos on demand of Barnabas Brushes just to get this out there and get some more people kind of taking a look at what we do here in our group, in our network, you could say. And we also are putting our main campaign, the Soul Severed campaign, is now up as a podcast on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So those of you who can't sit tight glued to a screen, totally cool. You can check us out via podcast. Okay, all that being said, what are we doing here? We're painting miniatures, and we have already kind of started painting miniatures. This project kind of took off about 4 months ago, give or take. It was kind of, I think, late June, early July when Barnabas Brushes kicked off. And we started out painting miniatures for the Psychic Promise campaign, which is a secondary campaign we run here on the Elite Encounters channel. That airs every first Tuesday of every month. We just had our episode last night. It was a real fun episode, really creepy stuff happening. So be sure to check that out. So some of what's happening there might maybe lead into some of what we're doing here. We have kind of already gotten started painting the Epic Encounters line, Arena of the Undead Horde. This set of miniatures is produced by Steamforge Games. Steamforge Games produces a variety of miniature skirmish games, but they also produce these kits. These kits come with a bunch of miniatures that kind of have a theme. They come with a little booklet that has an adventure written in it. This is written for a certain rule set of the most popular fantasy role-playing game out there, but it's easily convertible to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, the rule set that we use on Elite Encounters. And these miniatures, uh, oh, it also comes with an amazing flip mat that you can use for your encounters. So it fits what we do at Elite Encounters really well. We love maps, we love miniatures, we love being at the table with our friends. So we started out painting this kit, like I said, about 4 months ago, give or take. So once a week we gathered, and the first thing we did was we started painting these Iron Skull duelists. So with the first few episodes, we knocked these guys out. There were 4 in total in the kit, and these all kind of came out very similar. The only difference in the color scheme was the cloaks, just to kind of differentiate the models from each other. There were 4 of those that we painted. So just a brief recap going through what we've done. Then the audience decided, let's paint something a little scarier, and we decided to go for the Iron Skull Leonites. The Leonites are these larger undead kind of battle cat. Looks like a saber-toothed cat with a lion's mane, completely skeletal, with lots of really cool details like human skulls for the armor, lots of bones and debris on the base. This is right out the box of the Arena of the Undead Horde. The next project we decided to do, in keeping with the kind of the big bad theme, was we decided to go with the Iron Skull Andabata, and we learned that Andabatas were blindfolded or visored gladiators back in ancient Roman times. Painted a couple of these, one of these with the shoulder pauldron made out of a poor dead dude in his bronze armor there. And then we painted the second one with a slightly different color scheme with steel armor with some gold trim. And that's about where we left off. I'll just show you kind of real quick, maybe, um, how these models come in this beautiful kit like this. It's kind of hard to see in this plastic tray, but they all come in this plastic tray that you can keep your collection in. They fit right nicely in the little box with your booklet and your adventure material and your flip mat all in one bookshelf size box. So if you're a miniature collector and a gamer, you like having really cool minis, but you don't like having bookshelves of loose minis, they just go right in the box in this little tray. Boom, storage solved. Okay, so after we finished those big Iron Skull Andabatas, the audience then chose to knock out the Iron Skull Archers. There are a total of 6 of those in the kit. We got started on those last time by basically laying out a slap chop prime. Slap chop is a dry brush priming technique where you start off with a black prime and dry brush up through a medium gray to a white highlight on your priming. And that creates an underpainting of shadows, midtones, and highlights for your model and really pops the detail so that you're ready for painting. A lot of cool things come out when you do this slap chop priming. Some of the details you'll notice, like a human skull here on the ground, an arrow sticking out of this guy's neck. There's lots of cool little belts and buckles and metal doodads here, little kneecaps sticking out of his pants. Laces on the boots start to become apparent. I get that a little closer maybe to see that. There we go. But the detail in the sculpt really starts coming to life with this slap chop that sometimes you might not be able to see if you go straight to painting on a plain model. So the models come like this in this kind of off-white plastic molded like this. So you can pick out the details, but it really behooves you to prime these and bring the details out so you can make sure you don't miss any of the cool little features and effects that the sculptor has done on these models. Evil, welcome aboard, sir. Nice to see you. I knew you'd make it. It's a little weird tonight. We're on a new channel, so things might be a little wonky, but we're glad to have you. Just doing a brief recap of what we did when we were on the main Elite Encounters channel before we bounced over here as an affiliate that I described as kind of your ESPN2 or C-SPAN2 or MTV2, whatever it is. You can think of this as your affiliate channel to the main Elite Encounters network. Whew. That was a mouthful. So, like I said, we've got 6 of these bad boys that we have laid down the slap chop. We started to add some color. The first color that we laid down was the skeleton itself. My go-to paints when painting these models is the Army Painter Speed Paint line. The reason for that is, I have been painting miniatures non-stop, I guess, since about 2012 was probably when I picked up my first mini and really went to work painting that. And it took me a long time with painting layers, laying down base coats, washing in shadows or painting in shadows, and then highlighting up with layer after layer, wet blending, metallics, non-metallic metal, lots of different techniques to create models for the table that could take me weeks to finish one model, especially if it was a larger model like a dragon or something like that. With the advent of speed paints, this sped up my throughput quite a bit, which is great because, as you all know, I've said it a thousand times, I have a whole bunch of unpainted miniatures that I got to get through, and time keeps moving, and sometimes time gets away from me, and I look at my closet and think, I am never going to get all these done before I'm dead and buried in the ground, or my hands don't work anymore. So with the advent of speed paint, this is a one-stroke solution to miniature painting. One coat, maybe that's the better word. Lenny hasn't joined yet, so I don't know. Maybe if you heard me say stroke, we might go off on a tangent. But this is a one-coat solution to miniature painting that incorporates a base coat, shadow, and highlight all in one coat in a particular medium that flows into your model, pulls the heavier pigments down deep into the model to create those shadows, while the lighter pigments stay on top, creating those natural highlights. And the blend is just butter smooth. Very hard to recreate. Uh, yeah, they don't come in gallon cans yet. But one solution that Army Painter does do in cans, very similar to like wood stain, like if you go get to the hardware store and get a small pint can of wood stain, is the Army Painter dip. And what that is you paint your miniature, like let's say you have an orc. You paint him in just an army green color, an orc skin green, and then you just dip them down into this can, pull them out, shake them off, and the wash creates those shadows for you. Then you might go back in and touch in some highlights. But for people who are painting a lot of minis, the dip method was super handy. Make sure you use a nice set of pliers to hold your mini and dip them down into that stuff. When you shake them off, make sure you have a good backdrop because that stuff will spray everywhere. It's thin like wood stain is. But Army Painter Speed Paints, uh, well, I'm not in a shop. I am in a sunroom actually. So we've got a lot. We got a lot of stuff here, but I have like a whole L-shaped desk with a lot of my paint kits and unpainted miniatures all sitting here. Um, and I've got drawers full of brushes and yeah. Maybe one of these days we'll take a little tour of the facility, but I have to figure out how to do that with the cameras I have and not disrupt the stream. I don't know. Maybe one day. I would love to have a shop. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have a whole room that was nothing but mine for miniature painting. But I do share a home with my beautiful wife and stepson, and we have uh, hey, hey. Yes, the Gray Army is just it's as collectors, it's the price we pay for miniature painting. But get yourself some speed paints. They do come in a starter set that come with some very simple basic colors that you'll need. I don't believe it came with any metallics. It does. It did come with some greens, some reds, some oranges, some blues, purples, blacks, and grays, and a white. At any rate, the models we painted with this pallid bone. I am going to take some pallid bone and actually lay down some color on these skulls that we have in the base. Now that we're a quarter of the way into the hour, let's have some fun painting minis. Okay, so these miniature paints, speed paints, come with a mixing ball or two mixing balls preloaded into the bottle. So you always want to give them a good shake, suspend that pigment into the medium, and just lay out a couple drops in a hard dry palette. You don't want to use a wet palette with speed paints. My normal watchers have heard me say that before too. Speed paints are already very fluid, very low viscosity, so they're going to flow and wick up into your brushes. If you put them on a wet palette, it's just going to dilute them out and make them not perform the way they're supposed to. All right, so now that I've got a little bit of paint in my palette, for speed paints, I always use these really cheap synthetic Taklon brushes. Uh, yeah, no kidding. Yes. Yep. We never grow up. Our toys just get more expensive. 100% agree. But we use these, I use these synthetic cheap brushes, uh, for about $4 or $5. You can get them in any department store. You don't want to use your really good Kolinsky Sable brushes or even your really good synthetic brushes because speed paints wick right up and can they start ruining your brushes a lot earlier if you don't keep them nice and clean. All right, so like I said, we do have these skulls here that are on the base that I do want to catch before we get going on some other details. So we're just going to use this pallid bone to just color in the skull as it appears on the base. With speed paints, you want to try not to color outside the lines because they are translucent paints. And unlike what we're used to with layer painting with acrylics, you can't paint over them because they will show through each other. Meaning, if I lay down a dark color, like a very dark blue or brown or black or something that I'm like, oh, I want to paint some yellow on top of that. You go to paint that yellow on top of that, and that dark color is going to shine right through your yellows and ruin what you're trying to shoot for with your model. So once you get going on your slap chop prime, try to quote unquote stay in the lines, like coloring on a coloring book, just in 3 dimensions. Okay, so we're just going to lay down this bone color where this skull is. This skull looks really huge compared to the actual Iron Skull Archer. So I'm wondering if this isn't maybe like a giant skull or, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the same. It's hard to tell with his hood on and his eyes covered with that blindfold, but you can already see the paint starting to seep into those darker areas like the eye socket and the nasal opening there and under the teeth. And where the highlights are, like the brow bones and the cheekbones, are staying this highlighted color. That's the beauty of speed paint. That's how they work. They just seep right into your prime and basically tint your underpainting. The cool thing about these speed paints is they can also be used as kind of like not really a wash or a glaze, kind of a thicker glaze maybe to add tone to an underpainting. For example, if I painted a leather brown color, I can go over it with speed paint I'm sorry, not leather brown, but like a purplish red. I can go over it with a leather brown color and create like an ox blood type of leather using speed paints. So some of the effects that you can do are pretty cool. So again, because we have 6 of these guys, this kind of sets us up with almost like an assembly line kind of painting where we can slap chop out our 6 models. And once that prime has dried and cured a little bit, we can just paint right to it and just go right down the line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And just with real quickness and efficiency, paint tabletop quality models for our games. So this is great if you're painting, a miniature skirmish war band. If you have a huge army to paint for, more involved army skirmish games like Warhammer or Age of Sigmar. Um, well, I guess Warhammer 40K or Age of Sigmar. Yeah, what do you mean evil? The paint is like water, like consistency, or how do you mean? It does have a very watery consistency. The paints do. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but speaking of water, once I get done with the color, you're going to want to rinse your brush out with some clean water. I keep mine in a little coffee cup over here, off screen. Just swish your brush around in there and then wipe it out on a paper towel. There's some other really cool like brush cleaning products out there where they have a little silicone swishers in the bottom that really kind of clean out your brush. I just use an old coffee cup. Now I do have to have a lid on it because I've got cats that like to drink paint water for some reason, or at least my old one does or did. So to keep the little kitty out, we put a lid on this bad boy when I'm not at the paint desk. At any rate, as this paint starts to dry down, you can see it start to take effect there on that skull. So that detail is popped out now on the miniature. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and work on some of the leather pieces here. And so the things that I might want to keep the same color to kind of give some consistency. Yes, that is true. You do have to control the paint. And you want to lay it on fairly thick, but in a controlled area because you're right, it does flow really well. So if you're not careful, it'll flow into other areas of your model that you're really not wanting to do. Are the bones orange? No, they're kind of like a decrepit bone color. Is that not coming like an off-white color maybe? The color again is pallid bone, and it kind of gives this off-white old skeletal color there. These lids here are custom 3D printed lids that you glue onto. They don't come with the Army Painter paints. They come with these little gray caps, and then you just glue on these 3D printed caps that you can paint the color onto and see how it works. But that's pallid bone. That's the color. All right. So I'm going to lay down a little bit of the leather. I'm going to get these models here out of my way. Oh, the yeah, I get what you're saying now. Yeah, no, orange cats with their shared one brain cell that they have to, pass around to get through life. No, my oldest one was a Tux, and my newest one, she was a rescued barn cat. So who knows the pedigree on her? She has a really nice kind of black and white kind of cow pattern to her. Her face kind of looks tuxedo, but she doesn't have the jacket that a true tux has. She has more of a cow, like a Holstein cow pattern. Um, yeah, we don't know what she is. She's just super cute. And yeah, um, hopefully she stays asleep right now and doesn't climb all over the paint desk while I'm trying to paint. Hey, welcome, Peliquim. Nice to see you. So glad you were able to squeeze in and join us. Man, it's good to see you. We were just going over painting these Iron Skull archers here. I was about to lay down some leathers. I think I'm going to work on the boots, the belt, and the quiver. I think I'm going to have those all be kind of the same leather color. And maybe the pauldrons, right? Those pauldrons are made out of looks like a leather as well. So I'm going to try and keep those all maybe the same color. I don't know. Maybe the pauldrons I might make a little different colors so just so they pop from the model because they do seem to be a distinguishing feature. So with that, there's a couple colors that I like to use for leather. It just depends on the mood I'm trying to convey and how dark I want to get. One of the colors that I like to use for leather is ruddy fur, which is kind of like a bugbear fur color, but it comes out with this kind of brownish color actually when you actually apply it to your slap chop prime. And then the go-to from the original speed paint line is hardened leather, which is kind of got a lighter brown to it. Oh, you're about to head out for soccer? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you were able to stop by and pop into the channel. I know you follow the main channel, but if you haven't followed this one already, be sure to give us a follow if you would be so kind as to do so. We appreciate you coming by. It's always good to see you. Uh, I, I hope the girls are having a blast. Okay. Um, let's use the ruddy fur for the boots, the belts, and the quiver. And then maybe the shoulder pads will kind of lighten up with that hardened leather to kind of make them look like they maybe, uh, I don't know. Or we could do the opposite. Maybe do the lighter leather. Not like darker leather for the boots. You don't really see a lot of light brown boots unless they're moccasins. So again, you want to give your paints a good shake. I do have a mixer. So if you have paints that have settled for a long time, I have basically like a test tube mixer from like a laboratory workbench. And you just pop it on there and it mixes the paint really well. You can use that for nail polish, whatever. Works great for miniature paints. I don't do it on air because it gets really loud and interferes with the stream. So I just give these a good manual shake. If you're using your paints frequently, a good minute or so of shaking them up will be just enough. All right, so a couple drops of this ruddy fur. Again, this is the Army Painter speed paint. This is ruddy fur. This particular color is from the 2.0 speed paint line. They reformulated how they do the paints. Originally, the first wave of speed paints, the 1.0 speed paints, if you will, way the medium was produced, it had a feature or a bug, I guess, depending on how you looked at it and how you worked it, called reactivation, where once you put paint on the model and it dried even for 24 to 48 hours, if you went back on that model with a wet brush with a different color, it would reactivate the paint and cause it to bleed into whatever you're painting over the top of it. It was a real pain to figure out early on in the speed paint usage. But really good layer painters saw this as an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? Having it reactivate and become wet again allows for really smooth blending into other colors. So if I wanted to blend, for example, a purple on a tentacle or something, and just work that into a magenta, into a pink, kind of transition on this kind of tentacle creature, you can do that by reactivating your paint with the speed paint. And it made for some really cool transitions and blends. Other painters are like, no, I like to layer. I want my paints to not blend. I'm a layer painter. So what we had to do was speed paint, hit it with a coat of clear coat to stop that reactivation, and then paint over the clear coat with our next color. The 2.0 formulation got rid of the reactivation feature almost 100%. There can be some reactivation with some of the colors, but it's very minimal. Uh, oh yeah, yeah. Well, take her up on it. Go out and hit the stores and pick you up a miniature to paint at home with your new speed paint kits that you have on the way, or something. Um, So anyway, the 2.0 speed paints don't reactivate. So once they're dry, you can paint your highlights right onto them. You don't really want to paint speed paints on top of speed paints. You want to use true acrylics over your speed paints just to pop out additional highlights or maybe add some color. For example, if you paint like a big steel sword, but you want to paint some runes on that sword, once it's dry with the 2.0 speed paints, you can do that. Okay, so back to adding some color. I'll shut up for a bit and actually paint some paint. So these boots here, we're going to use this ruddy fur, which is kind of a reddish brown. Uh, Not quite an oxblood color, but just looks like a nice rich brown. And the slap chop has maintained the details of the boots, like so the little flaps here over the back of the leg. The laces on the boot are still evident in the slap chop. Really brings out the detail of the sculpt. I'll make sure to get everywhere that there is boot showing. It's like I said, like coloring a three-dimensional coloring book. So easy. You can load your brush up pretty good. Just make sure to kind of push the paint around where you want it to go. If you don't want it to pool too deeply, you can move it around before it dries. Or if you want it to pool fairly deeply because you want it to collect and really show a shadowed area, for example, you could totally do that. Like where his feet are bending here at the ankle, I want to let it pool a little bit more there to allow for those shadows to develop as the paint dries. Okay, so we said boots, belt, quiver with this color, I think was our goal. Belt, I'm going to go just a little bit lighter on the paint because I don't want to paint into the buckle. I'm going to try and paint that buckle separate. So again, controlling the paint, which does flow really well, just like Evil has pointed out. So you want to control your brush strokes here. Okay, and now we've got the quiver. Okay, so there's the top end. The bottom end of the quiver is actually coming out here underneath his cloak. Right. So the more I'm looking at this model, it looks like he's got like some form of shirt with a whole bunch of straps around the shirt. Maybe like I don't know if that's really leather straps or more like I don't know. Could be mummy wrappings. That's kind of weird though, that he would just have it on his chest. Then he's got this kind of leather skirt coming down off of his armor that comes down to his knees. Some pants, cloak, undershirt, these met pauldrons here, lots of cool details. He's got arrows sticking out of his neck, out of his side. Just really cool to kind of study your model and find the details as you paint it and get ideas of how you want to lay this down. But we have boots, belt, quiver. The camera, there we go. Boots, belt, quiver. So now that we've laid that down, we can move on to model number 2 and just do the exact same with that ruddy fur speed paint. And you can see that this technique, these tools, speed paint and slap chop method, really allow you to get your models done quick and get them on the table quick. Get through that pile of shame, that army of gray, as Evil says. Because, this is leather, like you don't have to paint it exactly the same thickness or, um, creating those really dark shadows as you do the other ones, because everyone's boots, even though they're the same guys in the army, are going to look a little different from how they, based on how they wear them, how they march in them, etc. So you might get a little bit gradation, like one guy's belt might be a little lighter or darker than the other guy in the troop. But that's cool. I think that just adds a layer of realism. One thing I also like about this slap chop method and using speed paint is the models end up looking kind of gritty. They have like this grisaille kind of gradation to them that remind me of uh, a certain art style that I found in books when I was a kid, like checking books out from the library, especially uh, dinosaur books. She says going to the game store doesn't count. No, that definitely counts. That is getting out. One of these days, Evil, what you need to do is come to Indianapolis for Gen Con. Um, a few members of Elite Encounters were at Gen Con this year. That's where we got the dice sets we gave away. Um, Ultimately, we are hoping to put on one of our live play shows at Gen Con. Like I said at the top of the hour, we have performed at PopCon in Indianapolis and in Louisville. Um, but we're hoping to bring that to even more conventions, meet more of the community out there that love the same things we love, right? Uh, so yeah, if going to a game store doesn't count, then save your pennies and come to Gen Con and run into us and you know we'd love to meet the people out there uh, and say hello. Do you have a lot of game stores where you're at, Evil? Is there a lot of options, or do you have to drive pretty far to get to where you can go to something like that? I know they're becoming a little bit more popular and prevalent. Like here in Indiana, a lot of small towns have game stores cropping up, which is cool to see. Okay. Boot belt scabbard. Yep. Just want to make sure I'm sticking to my plan here. Yeah, I get it, man. Working a farm is long hours, hard work, but we need it. So we appreciate you. I wonder if Lenny's out there or if he went to the main channel. I know he was having some issues getting on to Twitch earlier. Lenny, if you're out there, give me a shout. Okay. Yep, boots, belt, was quiver. Yep, belt quiver. That's all right. I also have figured out how to push this to YouTube, so hopefully um, I can drop this on my YouTube channel and link it somehow. So just a couple of drops of this paint in this palette. I have almost gotten through these details on 4 of my models. I'm probably going to have to replenish my paint after this guy here. Just maybe one more drop will do me. That's another cool thing with speed paints is because of their flowing nature, it really doesn't take much paint to hit the areas you want to work with. That was another thing to retrain myself with was figuring out just how much paint to drop out and hopefully not waste. Just a little tiny bit actually goes a long way. A little bit on the buckle I didn't want to get, so I used my thumb while it was still wet to just kind of give it a little brush. Brushed it right off. I can also use a clean brush and do the same. Okay, quiver. All right, there we go. That's number 4. Boots, belt, quiver, done. That's army painting. Super efficient. All right, let's get that ruddy fur out and just maybe one more drop. One more drop ought to get me through the last couple models here. This guy, the primer kind of did something a little wonky on the boot. Looks like maybe he's got a big scuff on his boot, which is kind of cool. Kind of sets him apart. Kind of like a happy little mistake. Not to steal from one of the most soothing painters to watch paint, Mr. Bob Ross. Happy little accidents. There's boots. Got a little heavy-handed on this belt, so it's gonna be a little darker than the others, but that's cool. Leather always has some variation. Belt. I have to work on adjusting my magnifying lamp so I'm keeping my subject in camera as I paint it. Just realize I'm just going to town painting and these guys are way off camera. But boot belt quiver for this guy. It's kind of a cool shot. You know, that detail is really popping out there. Okay, one more